Hi there, we're down at Woburn Golf Club today. We've got a really interesting day lined up. Now this is one of the sort of big product launches that we get to deal with, and it is the brand new Titleist Pro V1 and Pro V1x golf balls. Like I say, massive product for Titleist. They're on a 2-year product cycle. Let's have a look at what's new for 2019 with these two new golf balls. Okay, so what is different and what is new about the all-new Pro V1 and Pro V1x? Well, as you can see straight away, we've got a brand new box. Interesting design. You see that's quite striking when they've got them all stacked up in the pro shops. It definitely does catch your eye, and I do think that there is a sort of mark of quality about the boxes for these golf balls. So, like I say, very smart first impression of these golf balls, but it doesn't really matter what the box looks like when it comes to you know, how the golf balls are going to perform, and you know, what's the difference between Pro V1 and Pro V1x. Well, it's still a common question that people ask, and it's something that people can often get quite confused with, and it did get a little bit more confusing after the 2017 Pro V1 and Pro V1x launch, because we did see some quite drastic performance changes that year. What we saw that year with the Pro V1 was we saw a much more of a lower penetrating, lower spinning ball flight with the Pro V1. With the Pro V1x, we saw higher spin, higher flying ball flight. So there was quite distinguishable differences between the two that we found in 2017. It's something that they've done in both the Pro V1 and the Pro V1x is a new core. They've got this kind of reformulated core, which they say does add a little bit more ball speed. Like I say, the core is like the engine of the golf ball, and that's an area that Titleist work on very closely to see if they can improve that ball spin. They say that they have achieved that with these two new balls, but then what they've also done around that core is we've got this casing layer, which is another layer that can help add speed. How the golf ball reacts, this casing layer, how that reacts with the core. They've actually made that a little bit thicker, so they've got a kind of a newer, stronger core. We've got a thicker casing layer, but then the one thing that they've taken away, like taking away the thing that can slow the ball down, is the cover. Now the cover is actually a little bit thinner. So thicker casing around that core and a thinner actual cover. Now we're talking very fine numbers here. We're talking in terms of the cover, we're talking like 5/1000th of an inch thinner on the core, which doesn't really sound like much at all, but Titleist say that through their testing, working with tour players, they have found a little bit of extra ball speed, with this kind of like new ingredients, if you like, this new way of putting this golf ball together. And also what they're saying, that they have also found that there isn't any sacrifice on that feel, there isn't any sacrifice on that spin, and very importantly, there isn't any sacrifice on that durability, which is massively important, because obviously if you make that cover really thin, the chances are it might not be as durable. It all sounds absolutely fantastic, doesn't it? But we want to kind of go through the process and kind of see it for ourselves. So I'm going to go and have a full tour level ball fitting with one of Titleist golf ball specialists to kind of go through exactly the same processes that they are going through with their tour players, with their Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomases. So it's going to be very interesting for a mid-handicapper like myself to go through that process, find out the differences in performance between the Pro V1 and the Pro V1x, and kind of see if these new things that they've done in the golf balls are going to be helping my game. So let's go over and get fitted, see which of the Pro V1 or Pro V1x is working best for me. Okay, so myself and Ant, we've just played a hole here. This is the first hole on the Dukes course here at Woburn. This is all part of the ball fitting process. This is exactly the sort of thing that Ant would be doing, working with the tour players, the elite players, the best players in the world. But let's just go back a step, Ant, to the fitting element that we did on the driving range. We had TrackMan set up. Tell us about what we were doing there and what you were looking for to kind of ascertain whether or not it's the Pro V1 or the Pro V1x that's performing best for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the range, we hit shots on the range, and the key thing is that we hit a variety of shots. We don't just kind of hit ourselves with one club. We focus on all areas of the game. We've got some set numbers that we look for in our heads, but it's always built around the golfer and how the golfer wants to play their game. So if a golfer likes to see a high flying ball, naturally we're going to see a higher shot with a steeper land angle, which might be great. But likewise, there's going to be plenty of golfers out there that like to see the golf ball fly a little bit lower as well. After we hit the irons, then we go into the long game, the driver, make sure that the golf ball is working well for the driver. The key thing is that we cover all aspects of the game on that driving range, make sure that it's kind of ticking all boxes, not just one or two.
Absolutely, and we had the TrackMan set up for that, so that first sort of 50-yard pitch shot. Yep. That we were doing. Obviously, hit a load of shots with the Pro V1, hit a few shots with the Pro V1x. Even on that sort of shot, quite a delicate shot, would you still expect to see differences on the TrackMan between the two balls? Good
question. I think we expect to see like subtle differences, like for yourself there was about 300 RPM change between the two balls. A lot of golfers place the short game as their kind of area of choice to kind of pinpoint feel. So with the differences in feel of V and X, this is kind of where we can ascertain what style of golf ball you prefer the feel of.
And then when we started hitting the 7-iron, that was when we really started to see bigger differences, wasn't it, in terms of the height of the golf ball and of the spin. To you, with that, just on those 7-iron numbers, would that make you think that the X were possibly giving me more optimal TrackMan numbers?
More optimal, yes, absolutely, more optimal TrackMan numbers, but as you well know, we play golf on a golf course, hence why we're doing some on-course testing as well. So you're always working with the player, trying to understand how the golfer plays their game. In your case, Pro V1 doing exactly its job, lower flight with a little bit less spin on it, about 1,000 RPM down. X, again, doing its job, higher flight, more spin, will give you more control. But on the basis that you prefer the slightly flatter flight, V would be the standout option.
Absolutely. And then finally, we just finished off playing this hole. We just did just some very sort of short chip shots around the green to I said we had a good idea of which ball was working best for me, but we wanted to kind of, as Ant told me, sort of cross the T's and dot the I's on just making sure it performs around the green. And maybe saw a little bit flatter and a little bit more spin with the X, but the Pro V1 was hitting the shot that I wanted it to hit.
Completely, and I think the key thing here is that as you get kind of shorter to the green, on a short game shot, spin is exactly kind of what's needed. Both golf balls are high spinning golf balls around the green, so we definitely found that you weren't losing anything with the V. I think the key thing as well that we kind of look for is that, can you notice any feel differences? Is the X noticeably harder, or is the V noticeably softer in this area? And some golfers will say that, some golfers won't, but everyone is different, and it's just making sure that you test it in all scenarios and not just with one club in a bay or in a net.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go off and do a little bit more testing. I'm going to head over onto the Tavistock short game area just to put the balls side by side to be confident that I've hit enough good shots with each, so I can notice the performance differences. So I'm going to go and have a little bit more practice with both balls, and then I'll come back with more of a definitive conclusion. But I think I'm pretty sure of where I'm going to go at this stage. So thanks very much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Cheers. Okay, so I've been through the fitting process, I've done some on-course testing with Ant, which was fantastic, and I've come over here to the Tavistock short game area just to spend a little bit more time on my own, hitting both balls, seeing how they react on the green, seeing if there's any difference in the trajectory, the sound, the feel, all those sorts of things, hitting them side by side to, for me to be able to be confident that of the differences between the two balls, to know which one I think is going to work best for me. From the work that I've done with Ant this morning and the work that I've done here, it's actually quite an easy decision for me to say that the Pro V1 is the one that's just working better for me. I really don't feel like that there's any sacrifice with this ball when it comes to around the greens. It's still got a nice soft feel, a bit softer feel than the X. It spins, it checks, it kind of does everything that I want it to around the green. As we move away from the green with the iron shots, I do like the slightly lower trajectory, slightly less spin, obviously. When it came to the driver, the kind of total distances between the two balls were pretty much exactly the same, but there's a little bit more spin on the Pro V1x, which meant that was just staying in the air a little bit longer. So when I put all that information, you know, into the mix, like I say, it's quite an easy decision for me, because I just don't feel like I'm giving up anything really at all with the Pro V1. I've got, you know, really good control, really nice feel. But it's nice to see that the X does what it says on the tin, just with that extra flight on your iron shots, a little bit of extra spin for some players that, you know, maybe happier hitting that possibly slightly higher flight with a little bit more spin. But it's very dependent on the player, and that's why it's imperative for you to kind of work with your PGA Pro, go through the process and kind of get fitted to a ball that works well for you. So, any comments about the new Pro V1 and Pro V1x, please post them below. Any questions you've got, any more about the technology, I've got a lot more information I can go into if you want it. It's quite technical stuff, but you know, test me out with some questions down below and I will answer them. But yeah, just anything you want to know, anything you want to chat about, post those comments below. Give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.